Hi there. Whoops-a-daisy. How's it going? I just went to turn my tripod and I think I broke it. That's not good. Brute force. So, hi guys. Sorry it took a few minutes to hop on today. I'm not sure. The little wheel kept spinning and spinning. So, hi Alona. Sorry it took me so long to get on today. Hi Pam. Yeah, it was just a little slow. But hi Tracy. So for those of you who are joining me on Tuesday, expecting Technique Tuesday, I've had to have a little change in my schedule. There's no sound. Oh, now can you hear me? Maybe that's better. Let me know if you can hear that better. If not, I may have to start it over again. Oh, Tracy said hi. Crystal, hello. Tessa, Pam. Okay, good. So hopefully, Denise, you get sound. It seems like other people have sound. If not, just refresh your browser and start again. It's probably the best thing to do. So that's great. Okay, so Tracy says she can hear me too. So those of you who are joining me on Tuesday, expecting Technique Tuesday, I have a little change in my schedule. I think I might have to be at the store tomorrow. So that means that, hi Diane, hi Crystal, hi Margot. That means that today I am going to substitute Waxing Wednesday because I have access to the studio today and maybe not tomorrow. So we'll just swap them out. Tomorrow we'll do Technique Tuesday. And if anybody has any techniques or anything that they want to suggest, it's not that I'm at a loss, it's just that you guys are sort of always at my mercy with me teaching you whatever it is I think you should learn, which is kind of funny. But I think what you should do is just send me a little message within our tribe group, Open Studio with Christina, and make sure you let me know what it is you would like to learn. So I'm going to put the phone up on the tripod. Pardon the hands and the face. Hopefully this works because I seem to have broken it off today. Okay, all right, so Tessa, so maybe, oh, that's a good idea. I could do a transfer, which is, I'm glad you told me that today, Tracy, because it takes dry time. So I'll actually prepare that today so I can show you through the process, and then just like they do in cooking shows, how they have everything prepared and they pull it out of the oven even though they just made it, we'll do the transfer tomorrow. So that's actually excellent. So I will do that and have one ready so that we have an example. Okay, so on Waxing Wednesday, I have decided, since no one has given me any suggestions, I am going to redo an old encaustic painting. So the reason I chose that is because it is a common issue for a lot of us that have been painting for a long time, that you end up making your paintings, your art, whatever. Maybe you have a show and you sell like 75% of that show after a year or some time or some months or whatever it is. And then the leftovers. There's always these leftovers that are no longer part of a series. They were the ones that were seen and rejected or whatever. And you kind of feel sorry for these paintings, but maybe something wasn't quite right, or maybe in comparison to the other ones, which were stronger pieces, these just didn't stack up. So, hi Nikki, hi Meg. So I have an old encaustic that I'm going to work on today. So no, for the people who just joined me, you're not mistaken. It's not, it's supposed to be Technique Tuesday, but today we're doing Waxing Wednesday because I have to swap them out because of a schedule issue for tomorrow. So I'm going to grab my torch. Every time I say that, I think of in the movie Shrek when they all say, grab your torches and pitchforks. Anyway, so I'm going to grab my torch. And I'm using a torch instead of a heat gun. Two reasons. One is that it's much faster to remelt and redo. If you're trying to tweak a painting, you probably don't want to use a torch. You want to do it very gently with a heat gun, or even with this, like with an embossing gun. So the embossing gun is not as hot as the heat gun, and it's much more gentle at warming up the wax gradually. When I use my torch, I am like planning on totally, I can hold this up so that you guys can see. So this is my poor little painting that that had an underpainting, and then it didn't sell, and I felt sorry for it, and then so I tried to redo it one day quickly, and now I'm like, what was I thinking? So this gray blue color, not doing it for me at all. So this piece needs a complete overhaul, and yes, I did an image transfer of a nest, but if I work really hard and try to save that and save that and save that, it's going to cripple the entire potential of this painting. Okay, so when I often tell you guys that you seriously, sometimes you just have to love and let something go, this is me showing you bare bones, I am just letting something go. So and this is for the promise, or the hope, let's say, of something better. So today, few of you just joining us, it's Waxing Wednesday, even though it's on Technique Tuesday. We have a schedule change, so today we are going to fully let go of an encaustic painting instead of trying to save. So like I said, this painting has a whole painting going on underneath, was part of a show. I think I sold like maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 or something like that out of like 10 or whatever the number was. So these are the leftovers. So this poor leftover got this makeover, and it got a transfer, and then I thought, bam, it's done. But you know what? I never really put my heart and soul into the saving of this piece. So today I'm willing to let it all go for the hope that there's something better underneath. So at times, like what we did on Friday, we try to preserve and we try to save some areas that have good bones and good structure and maybe composition. But on this one, I'm hoping and I'm relying on the fact that I know there's a painting under here. I just don't know what it is, but I'm hoping that that gives me a better jumping off point than trying to save what's already here. So I'm going to flip this down. Oh, my poor tripod, I broke it this morning. So let's see if I can get it to do what it's supposed to do. I don't think it's going to do that. I'll have to go get the other one. Okay, you guys are going to have to talk amongst yourselves for a second. I'm going to go get my other tripod and see if that one will work a little bit better. Okay, so let me move this to a different one, and we'll see if we can't get you guys watching. Whoops. It's not ideal. Let's see if I can't raise it up just a little bit. Well, I'll walk you through it. I'll talk you through the process. Tell you what I'm doing. First thing I'm going to do is I am going to, there we go, not terrible, terrible. Okay. It looks like that's as good as we're going to get for today, and I'll have to fix my tripod if I can. In the meantime, bear with me. I can't see you guys, so unfortunately you're just going to have to rely on my voice today. Okay, so I am going to heat this up first, and let's see where we go from there. So I got a whole lot of black wax on this side. That's probably the first thing to go. And I'm heating this up incrementally. Like I said, I'm not attached to anything. So there goes my transfer. It's okay. I'm hoping that there's something better underneath. I'm not going to fully fuse this and melt it all to a puddle first, because that'll take a long time for it to cool down, enough for me to scrape. So I'm just going to warm it up enough that using my razor blade, I can start to carve through and to see what's underneath. So interesting, here's an interesting thing, is that I back then, or at the time that I made this series, I can't even say back then, but at the time that I made this series, I was into different levels and texture and stuff like that. So I have built a raised panel, which I can't ignore as composition, right? And then on top of it, I've added another piece. So, and then there's another little piece down here. So all these little elements are playing into the fact that I have a predetermined composition, whether I like it or not. So, oh, look at all that red under there. So the reason I decided to abandon this one, like I said at the beginning, was because it had an old painting on there that didn't sell as part of a series. So when I had the series, all the paintings sold except for this one, and maybe there's one other or two, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look through my stuff. But anyway, I picked this one up today and I thought, oh, there you are, a lovely little painting that once upon a time I thought was good enough for a show, but because it didn't sell, I abandoned it. And then I came back and I thought, oh, I'll just do a quick fix by adding this pale blue wax, and then I did a transfer on top, and it didn't really save it, it just made it a different bad painting. Bad in the fact that it wasn't anything I was proud of. So it wasn't something I was about to go and sell or you know, display or anything like that. So if I wouldn't hang it in my house, then essentially I don't think it's a good enough painting for me. So this painting deserves my effort, and so that's what it's getting today. And actually it's kind of cool and grungy now, which is really neat, because that part, make sure you guys can see that part is really neat. Here goes some of this wax. I'm already recognizing some of the papers and fabrics and things that I've got going under here, which is actually way more exciting. And you know, the fact that I covered it up in the first place just because it didn't sell when it was in a show or something, the truth of the matter is, like, it had, when I paint for a show, I generally have like around this size. This is an 8x8, I think, or maybe, no, it's a 10x10.
Oops, sorry. Unit 4 would be where?
I'm sorry?
Unit 4?
Upstairs. Sorry guys, one second.
Where's the...
So it's the door next door.
Okay.
You just ring their bell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry about that. Somebody came to the door of the studio. Caught me off guard too, and not used to seeing people in here. This is what COVID's been doing, right? People just wandering in freely. Anyway, so it probably wasn't a terrible painting in the first place. The truth is, it just didn't measure up, I guess, with the clients that were purchasing that day, or during that show, to the other pieces that I had there. So sometimes you shouldn't be so hasty like I am, I think. Must not be a good painting, so I'm going to get rid of it. And actually I see some pretty good bones under here, so I'm somewhat having regretted my decision a long time ago to cover it all up, but like I said, today holds the possibility of something much better. So this is the beauty of having backgrounds, like all those layers, all those glorious layers that we would never take the time to create and produce this many layers if you had to sit down and do them. But once you look back in retrospect and you're like, look at all these great layers, it's like a gift to have all these layers afterwards. So being able to scrape down and see all this stuff is awesome. And that is the beauty of encaustic. For those of you who haven't tried encaustic yet, and you're here with me for the mixed media portion, people get addicted to encaustic for very different reasons, but one of my favorite is the ability to change the painting after years. All it takes is you to warm it up and start scratching it back, and that painting can become new again. And I just think that that is one of the most amazing painting mediums for someone like me who doesn't feel that the painting is ever really finished until, like I said, until I want to hang it in my house, or until it's sold and it's gone out of my repertoire. But for the time, paintings may be considered finished for a lot of us, and then what happens is our style changes, our aesthetic changes, we get better, we get more skill set, we improve. And it doesn't mean that what you did once upon a time was bad, it just means that you've changed. And I think change is a necessary part of your painting evolution. And so I don't think I would have gotten all the great stuff out of this had I not covered it all up with this weird gray color. Which is really funny, because a lot of us tend to do that, right? Like, as soon as we don't like something, people start to blend, or they start to, I see that a lot, right? People go, oh, this is too chaotic, therefore I'm just going to blend it all together. Or this is out of my comfort zone, therefore I'm going to cover it all up with one color. Like, it's such a common thing. So if that's you, don't think that you're a lone snowflake out there. You are absolutely in good company with all of us who tend to think, wow, what was I thinking? And then just cover it all up, or unify it all, or do something to hide our sins of the past, right? Something that we did before, like make a bad painting or make a busy painting. And I see that with some of you who are working on your let loose backgrounds. When it gets too chaotic, the tendency is to cover it up, or to hide the parts that don't feel good. And that's normal. That's absolutely normal. It's not the right thing to do in terms of sometimes we need to unify, and I am definitely one of those people who likes to isolate areas and provide a lot of resting space in my art, like a spot where your eye can go and rest, and it doesn't feel like all chaos. But I fully believe in letting some of the chaos show. I think that that's where some of the magic is in the art. But if the whole thing is chaotic, then you don't see it, right? So it's only when you allow little bits of it to show through, and you hide some of it, which is what I'm going to do with this. Now, I could warm it up again if I wanted to scrape a bit more off, but I kind of like how grungy it is at this point. Like, it's got a very interesting feel to it. So you see all this wax. This is like what some people call garbage wax, and they would just throw it out. But there's no paper in here. There's nothing in here. So because encaustic materials, especially now, although it's always been, but especially now, encaustic materials are expensive and the bees are in trouble. So I use beeswax in my encaustic. So this is a resource that is going to be dwindling at some point. And it's expensive to begin with, but it's going to become more expensive. So what I do with this is I melt it in one pot, and then whatever color it is, I can adjust it with a little bit of powdered pigment, or whatever pigment you like to adjust your color. But the reality is whatever neutral it makes is probably also fine. And then if it needs to be filtered, then you would run it through some cheesecloth or a milk filter and get that. So just gonna put that aside. Now I'm going to fuse to get rid of my scrape marks, and then also any little areas that I think I could have cleaned up a little more with my tools. I'm going to do that also now. Needs to be a little bit warm in order to scrape, but I am happy overall with the feel of this painting. There's some colors that I'm definitely going to change, but that's okay. They're all part of my layers, right? So you can already see the change in this painting, but I hope what you also recognize is the fact that there's potential here. So if I had tried to preserve that nest that was put in so early on in the painting, I would have been working around the circle and working around the circle, and I never would have had the freedom to scrape back as much as I did to see what's underneath. And that to me is the, like I said, the beauty of encaustic, is that it doesn't matter how old the painting is, you can go back and warm it up and change things. And if I decide that it really needs a nest, I can always just put another nest transfer back into it. So I am likely not going to put another nest back into it, just because I don't know, maybe I will put a nest back into it, but it just doesn't feel like a nest painting anymore. It has a bit more grungy tone to it, and my nests are all pictures that I've taken in my backyard, and they're pretty, right? Robin's nests are just more pretty and that sort of thing, so I could put it in with the grunge, but I think it would take away from some of that. So now that I have it scraped down to what I find pretty interesting, actually there's, see the black here? I'm going to see if I can find some more black under here. Not as much, but it's okay. Oh, there's a little bit. The fun green popping out. I often look on the back of these paintings too to see if I remember anything about it, but the title doesn't give anything away, so I really don't even remember what this was. But it definitely needs a bit of composition. So remember that, so I'm always talking to you about value and I'm always talking about composition. So let's go over this one more time, as we do every week. We have a very strong compositional element right here, right? This raised part. We have one raised part here and one raised part here. I cannot ignore this shape. No matter what I try to do, I can't ignore this shape. And this little one is sort of just in relationship to that, a little bit of continuity, but the reality is they're very much one and the same. So this little bit will complement this, but I can't ignore the fact that I have this massive piece in the middle. So I'm going to go through my images because, as you know, with me, images are a way of animating and grounding and giving life to a painting. So if I start with that, knowing that it's going to be in this area because I can't ignore that space. I'm just looking through my images. Boy, I'm a one-trick pony. I either have birds or that's all I have. I have to get myself to Staples one of these days. All right. Yep. Okay, so I have more geese. And I have a diver. He's far too big, but he might just work. So I love using this vintage diver image. But no, I think I'll save him. It's way too that one's going to be a bit fussy to include in the whole thing. So let me just do the geese because it'll be easy. So I can either cut the geese out or I can transfer. So if anybody is new, you'll know that because I have a laser copy here, I can transfer this on top. Or for ease of operation, and because I'm just trying to do this quickly and get some color down and some imagery down, I'm just going to collage it in using a little bit of wallpaper paste or a Yes paste. I'm not going to bother cutting around this like perfectly, as much as I can, but then the rest I will integrate. Okay, that's good. Now, do I have a goose going the other way? I do have a goose going the other way. Big one and a little one. So I may even put a third just somewhere off of the page. For now, I'm just going to cut out my images. So it's actually my images that are going to, so like I said, I've already got a strong compositional shape in this panel that I can't really ignore. So now I'm going to add a image, which will add again to the composition, but it's also adding to the value contrast, because we have some black and white here. Well, it has some major black and white here. So I think I'm going to have to calm that part down with a little bit of white. And then just got to figure out where to put all this. Okay, so now I'm going to cut out the third one because 2 is not a great number for bold images. All right. So, I'll show you a little trick that I often do when I'm trying to. So I either use masks and stencils in my paintings, or I use partial images. So if I wanted to just put a little bit of this off of the page, do you see how that helps? Like just that one little bit. And then when I do that, so if I bring that part out right to the bottom, then if I wanted to, I could also like put this wing, if I needed a little bit somewhere else, I could have a little bit of that poking out somewhere else. I could even, make sure I do this right. Okay, so I can even, if I wanted it to be 5, I can put one part here, and I can put another part over here. It has to be at the top because of the shape, but you can see how I've rearranged all this. So now before I put my images in, I may want to seat them a little bit using the wax. So some of my colors are a little bit much here and there, so I'm going to use some white. And then after I use some white, then maybe I'll put in a bit of color. But I'm just going to tone down. I'm not covering it all up, so I'm using a very translucent white. But I'm just going to apply that. Okay, so you see that stands out a little more. I'm going to add a little more up here. So because of all my scraping and stuff like that, I really don't have a lot of contrast left in this and in this painting, and so that's why I'm just going back in and I'm adding a bit of the cleaner wax. And I say clean because it's got a brightness to it, it's got a freshness to it. When you scrape, you tend to scrape off in layers, but it also somewhat mixes things together. So this cleaner layer will certainly help. And if I add too much, I can always go back and remove some. This area looks a bit too much up here. And then I don't know what happened there, but it was very dirty, so I'm going to get rid of that stuff as well. There. So I don't know why I feel like Canada geese can be a little more grungy than a nest, but here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to fuse that in, and I'm going to fuse it to the top layer of the wax that was there before, and somewhat blend them together. make that look kind of seamless. So now when I'm looking at my composition, I feel I have a lot of white, which is great, but I also feel like I need to cut the line a little bit. So remember how we're always talking about, when we're talking about composition, I'm always getting you to traverse the canvas from one side to the other. Well, in this capacity, I'm going to do it both vertically, because I already have a line going here, but I'm also going to do it, there we go. I'm also going to do it horizontally. So in here, I might just add a little bit of colored wax, just for a little variety. It's a very translucent yellow. And it's nice because I've carved in some lines, so what I'm able to do with that is now go and fuse it, and then I can scrape on the other side of that. So I'll show you that. Much better. I'm also going to add a bit of color down here. Maybe a bit of color here. So I'm just picking up on some of my lines, right? So I've added those lines. Now what I'm going to do is fuse them, and then I'll show you how I scrape on the other side of them to create a bit of structure and composition. So because I've already carved in my lines, I know my direction, right? I know where this is going. So now I'm just going to use a tool to go on the other side of it. Maybe I'll use a blade because I'm a bit more proficient with a blade. And going up to my line, I'm just scratching away everything that I hadn't intended to be there. So this is a great way of going up to the line and creating an outline or creating a shape without having to go back in now and fuse again. Because when you fuse, you keep rounding things, you keep blending it. So now, because I've already fused it, I'm just going up to the line. I'm able to get crisp edges. A little bit that didn't mean to be there. I'm going to do the same with this turquoise color. I always forget to take a before picture, but you guys saw before, right? It was gray. It was gray blue. It had a nest. There was really no movement, no life, no interest. So after I get the collage in here, I want to show you a couple fun little finishing bits and bobs that I do. In here it looks like it could be dark. You see that in relation to that? I think I'm going to add some dark wax in here. So I'll put that in, I'll fuse it, and I'm going to scratch it back so it's not as dark as this one. But if I change my mind, I can always go back and take it out. But I'm going to let that set for a little bit before I do that. Right now I'm going to collage in those birds. See if you guys can still see me, sort of. Let me see if I can tilt it any more. A little bit better. Okay, so let's collage in these birds and then integrate them a little bit better. Got to get out my what am I looking for? I'm looking for my wallpaper paste. Different types of glue. A lot of people don't like to use acrylic based glues on top of wax and mixed media. I personally have had no issues with it, but you can use Yes paste, you can use any of those cellulose based glues that don't have acrylic in them. Wallpaper paste is cheap and easy. Okay. Raise that one up a little bit. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to avoid that middle section, right? Because I'm trying not to draw attention to the middle of my painting ever. I try to avoid the center. On that composition sheet that I posted way back when, I think it's time to repost that again. But on the composition sheet, you'll see that often where they talk about the mistakes inherent in putting your composition right in the middle. If I see that sheet, I'll bring it out, but you guys can all pretty much guess what it looks like when you center your images too much in the middle or whatever, especially a black and white image. But what happens is then your eye tends to just stay there. Like it just goes there and it stays there. So there's not much room for anything else. So I'm going to incorporate some of the other images. Put that slice of wing up there. And I'm going to put this slice up here. Whoops. I like that these geese are all going in different directions. It's kind of fun. And then this guy is going to come off the bottom. There we go. So what I'm doing in terms of composition is I'm drawing your attention here, but I'm trying to minimize the significance, I guess is a good way to put it, of this center thing. So by having the color that goes horizontally across it, and by having my images broken up randomly throughout, and then a few more pieces elsewhere, and then my black and white here, my black and white here, I'm kind of taking away from the significance, if you will, of that center column. So I guess once upon a time in my first iteration of this painting, I must have liked that because I did it, and I don't really remember what was under there, but it's not doing anything for me anymore. So here we go, I'm getting rid of it. There's just some fun colors that I'm just going to scratch through a little bit. Okay, so now this black, I can deal with this because it's not as hot anymore. So I'm going to scrape through some of it to try to mimic a bit more of like what's going on this side. So, love that. So it's just enough. Wow, that's really incredible. There's like a perfect shape of an angel there. That was unexpected. I'll try to hold that up to show you guys that afterwards. But it's quite cool. Okay. Try to clean that one up a little bit. Now, what I'm going to do with these images is, because I just put the wallpaper paste on, they do have to dry because we can't trap moisture in. So I'm just going to speed it up using my embossing gun and warm it up, and then seal them with clear wax. If you were doing this for reals at home, you would make sure that this was like 100% dry if you were using glue. Some people just collage without the glue, and you risk your paper lifting over time, which is a risk, of course, especially if you're selling your work. The glue is a bit of an insurance policy, but it really does need to be dry. There we go. I've seen some stunning artwork for sale actually in galleries and shows and things like that that have like encaustic, stunning pieces, but you can see where the paper is attempting to escape. And I just, you know, my heart goes out to that artist, because when they first hung it, I'm sure, and put the wire on the back and named it, and so proud, and then it got hung on the gallery wall or up in the show, they had no intention that it was going to start to decay and fall apart a little bit. But that's the sad reality of collage sometimes on top. So that's why your glue, a little bit of glue, a little bit of yes paste, a little bit of wallpaper paste that's fully dry is like your insurance policy that it's not going to go anywhere. Again, nothing is guaranteed, right? But at least you have a better chance. Now I'm going to put some clear wax on these guys. Some clear medium, I should say. And I'm going to fan the medium out a little bit so it doesn't look like it's just stuck on. I love integration right from the beginning, so if we can minimize awkward little spots like that white and everything else, then I'll do it right from the beginning. I don't mind if things look like collage, right? I don't want anyone to go, wow, did you draw that? Like, that's not my intention. My intention is always to have a seamless integration of my images with my mixed media, such that anybody who is savvy, anyone in the know, would say, wow, that's seamless. How did she do that? Or anyone who didn't know would say, wow, that's crazy. You can't even tell the difference between where the painting begins or where the painting ends and the collage begins. So that is always my goal when I'm working with in mixed media, is not to avoid the fact, or to disguise the fact, I should say, that I'm working with images. It's so that the integration is so seamless that it's very professional looking. Okay, so now where I have that yellow, I might have to cut that little bit of white because it's just creeping up in a way that I don't necessarily want it. Extend my yellow a bit more over there. Here's looking a bit messy, but I'll deal with that afterwards. Okay, so now you see my wax. My medium is a little more yellow than my white. And I'm actually okay with the combination of the two, which is why I like to use my natural medium in conjunction with whites. Because again, it's not because I'm trying to make the two things look seamless. If I wanted that, I would do a transfer, right? Or if I wanted them to look so integrated, I would just do a transfer. But because I stuck this on, I'm actually embracing the fact that I'm working with different waxes and different colors and different textures. And because I have that white popping through everywhere, here and there, like that looks a little messy, but I have a nice relationship between the colors of waxes, and I'm not really concerned about you know, it looking fake here and there. Now, where some of my images are trying to resist being stuck down with wax, I'm just going to go and I'm going to make sure that they are actually fully embedded by pushing down my edges. So I often use a blade for this, but these little guys are so small and dainty that I don't think it's actually necessary. I can just push them down, making sure that there's no lift. So if you're not collaging with glue, oh, I just got rid of his head. Poor guy. Look at that. Let's see how he looks without a head. I'll just stick it back down. So you can see here I have a bit of color correcting needing to be done. I'm going to make sure that this part is fully integrated. There. So now I can also scrape back some of the color here and there, the medium, so that that white that I put under there pops. I don't want to do it everywhere, again, because it's all about integration. It's not about camouflaging and having a full white painting. If I wanted a full white painting, I just would have started with white wax to begin with. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean this up a little bit, just because it looks to me a little messy here. And I think I might use this platform to show you a few little interesting techniques. Right, we can avoid this little platform, or we can make it a selling feature. Okay. There we go. Nice. Okay, so that's adding a bit more of my white back in, and that's only because I want it to look clean and not like a dirty, messy, too grungy kind of painting. I want to integrate both areas nicely. Now I'll fuse that. And it's just a very light fuse at this point, right? I'm just smoothing out some of my wax and having it adhere to the wax below. I don't really need to do a blend. I'm certainly not scraping, and I don't want to create too much heat that my image pops up. So that's looking pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. Now I'm going to show you, so my wax is kind of warm here, and if I have a stamp pad, which I don't have one right in front of me, but I'm just going to show you, I can press some letters into the warm wax. If I had a stamp pad, I use StazOn, the black stamp pad. It's a great, it's great because it's like integrating your patina right into the wax, so you don't have to go back and fill it up. So I'm just going to create this with warm wax, and because I don't have a stamp pad, but whoops, put the L sideways. So if that happens, you can scrape it back and just do it again, but so it's a sideways L. Now wax is still warm enough. Whoops, too hard. Again, if it's not legible and you want it to be perfectly legible, then you just go back in and scrape it, redo it. And I'm going to grab my Y, which I just dropped on the floor. It's a good thing I swept my floor yesterday, or that would have taken much longer. Okay, so now I've stamped in there, but now we want to be able to read this, right? So now I have to do either a pan pastel or a patina. And let's see what I have in front of me. I don't want to go too far away from you guys, so I'll just briefly give this a little look-see. Oh, and look at that, there's a stamp pad right in front of me. Okay, so all I can find is some blue oil paint, so I'm just going to put that in there. Normally I wouldn't choose electric blue, but that's okay, that's what I have, so that's what we're going to look at. So if sometimes you're lazy like me and you only have electric blue on hand, it's a good idea to introduce this color somewhere else in the painting, just so it's not as foreign a concept as it's going to look. Where should we put some over here? Yeah, let's put some over here. So I'll just introduce a little bit of that blue, and we'll get rid of a lot of it, most of it, with veggie oil and some paper towel. So this is a patina on, look at that, oil paint, or veggie oil right in front of me. This is a patina on encaustic, for those of you unfamiliar with this term. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to put a little veggie oil on my paper towel first, and what I've already done is rubbed it right into the surfaces where I want it. So now I am basically softening up the oil paint that's sitting on top, Now I need a clean spot, because if I don't have a clean spot, I'm just going to smear it around. And I'm going to put a little more veggie oil on that. I try not to put any veggie oil directly on the painting because it washes it out of those grooves. So second pass. Okay. Now, need another clean spot on my paper towel. So I'm going to use that on this one. So sometimes it takes a bit more than putting it on, but you're assured that you're going to have a nice patina where you've placed it. If you spray if you squirt the oil right into the text or your scratches or whatever, then you're not guaranteed that it's not going to wash it out. I know I've said that, but I just reiterated. And in case some of you didn't really get that the first time, a little more over here. So now that I've got most of it off the surface, oh, a little more there. Now I'm just going to go back without veggie oil, but with a clean paper towel, and just wipe off any excess vegetable oil as well as patina. Make sure it's nice and dry. We don't want any oil, veggie oil left on the surface, because it won't fuse. And if it won't fuse, then you can't do things like pan pastels and stuff like that to it. So now I'm going to move everything away as I'm igniting my torch, so we don't have another kitchen fire here. Okay, gonna fuse that lightly. Beauty. Okay, so with the addition of a few little pan pastels or something, I would say that this painting is done. Let me put this up so we can chat and I can show the painting. Okay, so there we are. So this one, as you can tell, has gone through quite a transformation. It was, before it was just very gray, very dull gray blue, and it had a nest in the middle, and I just tried to save it because I didn't like what was going on underneath, because as we were talking about it, maybe it got too busy, maybe something happened, I don't know why, but it ended up in my reject pile pretty quickly with very few restrictions, I guess no restrictions, that's a better way of putting it, at the beginning, by just heating it up and scraping it back and letting it show me its full potential. I think I have a very cute little comprehensive encaustic painting now that I can go ahead and add a few little details to if I want to. But yeah, I think this will be hanging on the wall in the store probably by the end of the week. So that is how quickly you can take something that once upon a time caused you lots of consternation and lots of rejection and that sort of thing, because it was a discarded painting, and with very minimal change and without being attached to outcome, you can change something super quickly, which is why, like I said, I adore this mixed media and encaustic thing together, because the potential is huge. All right, so I think that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. I know I got had my days mixed up, my Waxing Wednesday and my Technique Tuesday. That's because I don't think I'm going to be in the studio tomorrow, so I may have to show you guys Technique Tuesday on the road, which would mean that if it's not here in the studio, then we won't have wax. So I'm glad you like it, Pam. Anyway, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Thanks again for watching.